Tell me about how you consider the impact of your work.
Sure. Definitely, that's a great question. I mean, something that really drives me, brings energy, makes me think innovative ideas, and brings happiness in my day-to-day work is realizing how much impact I'm making to the world, really. And it's not just me, it's my team also. I'm engineering manager. I'm leading a team, and all the team members really want to know before starting on the project, while working on the project, what is the vision behind those projects, and what impact they are going to make as while working on it. And that really reflects on their performance, so they get motivated, and that helps make the team as high performing team. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's always good to hear when engineers are very impact driven and they're not just sort of following the guidance of leadership, right? They're thinking about the impact. They're thinking about how the impact drives their work, and this helps with team morale too. So it's good to hear that you instill these values in your team. And when we talk about impact, this is impact on the world. So when we think about who the work is impacting or like what this world means to you, what does that look like for you as an EM for your team?
Sure. So from world perspective, the way I think of world is mainly I divide the world into three buckets mainly, which are kind of interrelated to some extent. Where first is customer, so customer impact. Second is organization, meeting the organizational goals that I'm working for. And third is impact to the team, which is kind of a little bit unique to the senior levels leadership kind of roles when you are at. Definitely, you tend to get you'd give bring more impact to the team. So customer, like whatever my team or I do, that like we impact the customer day to day, whether it is a bug fix, product launch, whether it's a feature that is released within few hours, few days, few months, or even years, couple of years. Sometimes the product is launched, worked upon for a couple of years as well. And we are making a difference in the life of customers in a positive manner that way. Then thinking about the impact to the organization. So whenever usually I've worked on customer centric companies, so where the organizational goals are built upon customer impact, like how we are positively uh, how to make customer happy and how to increase revenue and all those, and increase the user base. So those organizational goals, meeting that is something I feel like making an impact to the organization. And third, definitely the team. So like as people grow in their career, what's really more important, as important as individual contributions, is how much influence you're making to the team, how much influence you're making to the stakeholders. So when I was technical lead, I had around 10 people working on a project. It was a long project, um, kind of around a year, 1.5 year project. So I spend a lot of time removing the bottlenecks, shielding them from any noise, prioritization, guiding the architecture and code reviews for the team, and managing the project effectively to make sure those are delivered within timelines. So when I think about impact there, I didn't consider myself as just one person over there. So I considered that that's one of the projects that if I am given myself, I won't be able to implement it myself alone. But I have 10 people. Through that 10 people, I'm making a kind of 10 times impact than if I'm doing alone myself. So that's where I get motivated from the technical lead perspective. And now, if last few years being a manager, I feel like my impact has even grown further, where I'm not just not just owning the responsibilities as technical lead and architect, but at the same time managing up, mainly like influencing the senior leadership, VPs, with the product strategy, and even working with the stakeholders about the same, aligning on the company's vision, and even manage down where I'm empowering my team to make decisions, reach their career goals. I tend to delegate. I have regular one-on-ones. I tend to delegate work according to their career goals, like what they really want to do and what will help them grow to the next level. or maybe some people really want to work on something we have people. I'm managing a full stack team where front end people might want to work on back end people might want to work on front end, and even iOS and Android. like uh, we have presence over there. So definitely helping people make impact, delivering those projects, and that reflects that impact to the team really reflects on how people feel in their anonymous reviews at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. And thanks for breaking that down into customer, organization, team, talking about how you're managing up to leadership and stakeholders, how you're managing down for the individual contributors on the team. And I think that's very important for an EM, like someone who not only is trying to deliver work for leadership, but also is looking out for the career goals and making sure they're delegating appropriately and making sure that as an EM, right, like everyone's bought into the vision. I think that's all very important. So, uh, how do you know though, like upfront, whether the work that you and your team is working on, like whether that work will actually make an impact?
Sure. So eh, there are both sides of it. One is, I mean, I would say I would still divide this into again three parts. So one is about the domain that we are working on, domain or what company is working on. So public data about that company and the domain. Second is actual tasks that we are working on, whatever is available publicly. And third is the hard work that different stakeholders do in terms of estimations, like how much numbers they are going to move. So by knowing these three things upfront, it really helps in even guiding the team to that they are really making an impact. So let me explain. So I mean, my first job and second job were in core operating systems domain in Apple and Microsoft, where imagine, I mean, there were no operating systems. I worked on the operating systems team. And imagine if there was no operating systems, no laptops, no phones, nothing. I mean, just a mere thought of that thing like makes you feel like, okay, just as a part of that team, how many people you are impacting? Like billions of people use it. And without those operating systems, really, I mean, the world, I can't imagine what the world will look like. So then I worked on other domains also, like gaming. There is so much stress in United States. 75% as per the stats, their stress is impacting their health. So gaming really helps, sometimes even works as meditation, as people say. But yeah, definitely if that gaming is done for a reasonable amount of time. So that's about the public data points that we have about the company, about the domain. Then there are some tasks at hand, maybe smaller tasks, maybe bigger tasks. Like let's say, think about the sudden change that we had with the pandemic, or sometimes there are earthquakes. So helping people affected by those unfortunate circumstances, a lot of the companies, and I'm fortunate to be part of those companies in the past, that like creating an impact on those people really gives a good feeling of social conscience as well. So then whenever we developed any web page, we think about accessibility. uh, People who are blind, how can they navigate through the web page? So all those people really deserve the same life as others. So
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense, right? I think we're talking kind of high level here about how you know whether upfront, like the work that the company is doing is making an impact on like victims of an earthquake or people in the pandemic or just general like productivity for people. But how about like for the actual team? Can you talk about any sort of signals that you'd look for to know that the specific team that you're working on, if the work that's coming is actually going to be impactful for the company?
yeah, so we always work with different stakeholders, analytics, product managers, and we come up with the metrics like how much NPS score it is going to drive. NPS is customer satisfaction score. So maybe, and what are the reviews? We tend to ask people their reviews on any new feature we launch. We monitor those, and sometimes there are metrics like how much percentage in revenue we are going to increase, how many users are we going to bring, how like then these are like user satisfaction, number of users, revenue. And there are other ways of looking at things also, like when you are in security domain, and I had been like I have done some fraud analysis, and kind of helped with the making some of the project like product secure. So in that case, you think about how much fraud we are reducing by, how much are the good transactions that we are getting, so in terms of the numbers. And definitely that's a good collaboration between different stakeholders and engineering to come up with that numbers.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Like understanding what the key goals are for the team, having quantitative metrics around those, and looking at those and seeing how we're moving the needle from the work that the team's doing, and also, yeah, I think you mentioned some qualitative metrics here as well, like NPS feedback from customers. How do you think about technical debt or bugs for the team? How do you measure the impact of the technical debt that the team is facing?
Yeah, I think that's a great question as well. So there is often a common misconception that that releasing features has a greater impact than technical debt, because those are close to the customers. But really, there, if you evaluate, if we think like think through it, there are often times that developers are slowed down. Like there is duplicate code, there is slow build process, there is lack of debugging tools, old infrastructure, not at the latest standards that we are continuously updating behind the scenes in maintenance mode. So they take a lot of time. And these things, when we come to measure it, right? So let me give an example. Let's say there was one scenario where our build process, like our code was on pretty old tech stack. So the build process was taking 15 minutes per build. And if we sum it up, if we have some mathematics, like one developer doing 4 builds a day, and we talk about just 4 developers right now, so it comes down to be around kind of 1,000 hours, or even if you take 2 minutes of build. So if you think about that, and if we let's say instead of 15 minutes per build, if we are able to reduce that build time to around 2 minutes, you get a saving of around 4 months per year. If you think about, I mean, I need your pen and paper to write down, but still, I mean, if you think about like 50 applications of and such kind of scale, then we get to kind of $1 million in revenue saving, like in the cost saving, I would say. So $1 million just for improving the build process. I'm saying it's not just not nothing else, not even
Yeah.
tools, not even reducing duplication. So these kind of things really are impactful, and it's important to measure them. So we'll have to do some mathematics, and then we can come up with the right numbers. And sometimes those impact, like this quantitative metrics, are really even more impactful than how much revenue we are going to make through the customers, or sometimes we are improving the performance. Then if the website is pretty fast, then customers really want to come up and work, and I mean and really enjoy the experience. They will be more engaged, and it increases NPS score indirectly. So
Yeah.
there are ways to measure technical debt like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is really important for an EM, being able to communicate to leadership and communicate to cross-functional stakeholders why it's important that we also dedicate time to working on technical debt, right? Like you talked about duplicate code or slow build processes, old infrastructure, all of these things will pile up. And I think the way that you kind of quantify the impact is really important for an EM to do, so that other teams know that, hey, like even though we're not building something that the customer can see at the end of the day, there's still long-term downstream meaningful impact that the team is doing, and therefore we have to prioritize this kind of technical debt on the roadmap. So how about bad impact on the customers? Like, is there anything that you're doing as an EM to prevent customers from being impacted in a poor manner?
Yeah, so we tend to make sure like we follow some guidelines whenever we are releasing any new project, any new code. We want to make sure that those code is well tested. We have proper automation with high test coverage. It's very performant, it's secure, it's reliable, accessible to the blind and other folks. Then localized, whatever company I worked in, they have global presence. So we want to make sure it's not just good for our US customers, but rest of the world. So many things we think about, and these we proactively think about to avoid any bad impact, because we don't want we want customers to enjoy the experience. And a lot of the processes that we have in place are related to code reviews, going through the product requirements carefully and thinking about every possible use case upfront. So, and even architecture reviews that I'm also part of. So I do drive and encourage team members to participate in the architecture reviews as well, and give great opinions of how the architecture should be developed, thinking about long-term vision, thinking about reusability and performance. And yeah, so all these things really, whether it is even bugs, like we tend to look at bugs, let's say sometimes bugs are filed. We tend to look at bugs very closely immediately so that we can understand the impact of those bugs uh, right at that point before it goes bigger.
Got it.
So all those things, we take extra precautions to avoid bad impact.
Yeah, yeah, right. So it sounds like the team has careful product requirement reviews, code reviews, architecture reviews, testing, QAing, dogfooding, all these things you mentioned. Very helpful to make sure that the customer isn't being poorly impacted. But I feel like all these mechanisms and processes, they could lead to projects being long. Or maybe the team is just working on a huge product, and then the project timeline is just very long. So as the team is working on like long roadmaps, is there anything that you're doing to remind the team of the impact, making sure that the team is going down the wrong path, the right path?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is very critical, like on the bigger projects at least, it is very critical to reinforce what impact they're making. We divide the projects into different milestones, and we have impact associated with each milestones as well. So we develop some key performance indicators, KPIs, and success criteria. So we successfully track all those milestones, and I constantly encourage team to make sure like they are, to encourage them, and how those milestones are fitting in the bigger picture. So how we are making the world better every day, thinking about the goal that we are trying to reach. So whether it is a bug, whether it is like a big feature, definitely I think we are, every day we think about how we can make, sometimes people really have innovative ideas, innovative tools. So we tend to like acknowledge and adopt those ideas, and implement and test out, experiment with them, and think about like uh, how we can make the long term better as well. So, and this is like during the launch, a lot of project management things, project management practices we follow. Then after the launch, we have a lot of monitoring in place. We look at the boards, forums, customer reaction, work with analytics, and make sure that everything is within the expected range, or how we can improve and make sure we can improve the impact on the customers more. So we really care about the customer experience, and definitely with rest of the team, stakeholders, we work together to find a good solution.
Cool. Sounds good. Sounds good. So this wraps up my interview for you, Niraj, and I just want to say thank you for taking the time and sharing your thoughts on all these topics. We started with a very simple question about how you think about the impact that your team works on, and then I asked a bunch of different follow-ups. And again, like these are the kind of questions that you'll probably get in your engineering manager, senior engineering manager, and probably even engineering leadership kind of interviews, where you'll be asked very philosophical questions about how you think about the team, how you help the team, how you make sure that the team is on track, and what kind of mechanisms you may have in place. So again, thank you, Niraj, for your time here. And before we wrap up the video, do you have any sort of reflections that you want to share about how you answered this question?
So I think I'm really happy with how I answered. Although if I had given a chance to prepare more, maybe I could have made the answers even shorter. So that's what I feel. Yeah. So that's what I would say as an opportunity. But overall, I felt like I'm pretty happy with the answers that I had.
Okay. Do you have any tips for people who are going through engineering manager interviews? Maybe just one tip for the audience, one key tip.
Yeah. So, I mean, think about, I would say engineering manager is more about the team, the collaboration, the influence that you have on like up at the same level, like stakeholders, and down. So all the engineering managers, I would really encourage them to uh, prepare from all those perspectives, like how you're managing up, how you're influencing the key stakeholders, how you're motivating team, how you're empowering your team to make their decisions, how you're making high performing team. So definitely, I think that's where I think like care about your. I think there's are plenty of sentences though, but yeah, definitely care about your team members and
Yeah.
learn from them. Be an active listener, I would say,
Yeah.
than continue speaking. So, yeah.
Yeah, making sure that the stakeholders are aligned. You're managing up, managing down, managing sideways, thinking end to end. I think, like the last question I sort of asked you about making sure the team is on the right path for long projects, right? I like how you talked about, not only about what happens during the launch, but what about after the launch, right? The project doesn't end right after you've launched. You've got to make sure that there's continued impact after the project has been shipped. But overall, Niraj, thank you so much for taking your time. And for the audience watching at home, good luck with your upcoming engineering manager interview.
Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons below to let us know that this video was valuable for you. And of course, check out hundreds more videos just like this at tryexponent.com. Thanks for watching and good luck on your upcoming interview.